health correspondent Nicola Hill, who's in London for us. Nicola, tell us more about this.
Yeah, it is exciting news, Maria, isn't it? This is research that's been carried out at Columbia University in America. And what they did is that they identified various patients who were at hospital. These patients were severely ill, ventilated with Covid-19. And we do know that when people are that poorly, their immune system really has to create very powerful antibodies. And what the researchers did is that they screened the antibodies from these 40 patients. They found 61 particular types of antibodies. And out of those, they found 9 that they call exquisitely potent antibodies, lovely phrase, that were able to completely destroy the virus. And that was in killing the virus completely. But also, they found out by doing animal studies that if they gave these 9 exquisitely potent antibodies to the animals, it then prevented them from getting Covid-19. So obviously what they're hoping to do is to see if this can become a therapy, an antibody therapy that will be very effective. Now, Professor Eleanor Riley, who's a professor of immunology and infectious diseases at Edinburgh University, like many, has welcomed this study being published in Nature magazine. And in fact, it's an accelerated publication because it's such interesting news. And she says this backs up reports that are coming from laboratories around the world who are all looking at different ways to see if we can potentially treat the coronavirus. And she says that obviously it's something that's positive, the fact that this can happen. The downsides are how long are these antibodies going to last? And any potential treatment coming from this could be very expensive. But it is something that the researchers in America think is a potential. It's a treatment that they can do. And if you remember, we've discussed before, Maria, about the plasma therapy that's been used, particularly in Turkey, where blood plasma from people who've had the coronavirus and become better has been transfused into people who are seriously ill. And that's because they're relying on the antibodies to see if that's going to kick in with the other people. This is a step further. It's hopefully going to be the development of a therapy just from the antibodies themselves.
Nicola, it sounds very promising. So what happens now? What's next?
Well, Professor David Ho, who is the lead researcher, says they're going to continue looking at the 61 antibodies that they've identified. There's more research on that. But what they hope to do next is to synthesize enough antibodies so that they can then have a phase 1 trial looking at the safety of any therapy like this. And this will possibly be in October. If that works, by the beginning of next year, they hope to then extend this to see if it's effective, to do what's called an efficacy study, to see if this does actually work, and they can turn this into a therapy. Now, antibody therapy isn't new. It is actually already used in autoimmune diseases. So pharmaceutical companies are used to having to synthesize antibodies to do this. As I said, Professor Riley was worried about the cost and how long they would last. But Professor Ho feels that because of these exquisitely potent antibodies, he thinks they might last between 3 to 6 months. So it's not going to be you give it to people once and that's a prophylactic, it'll work forever. It might be something that you'll have to do again and again. And they might give it to people who are particularly at risk of contracting Covid-19.
Nicola, thank you so much for sharing this good news. Nicola Hill, our health correspondent in London.